your history with a couple of suppliers who are comparable to World Ticket, and a lot of engagement with a lot of regional and mid-sized carriers over the years. What are the trends? What are the factors that you see that are present when there's a successful regional mid-sized carrier?
Well, I mean, the first thing that is interesting or important to note is that if you look at Europe, for example, about 1/3 of all airlines that have operated 5 years ago in the regional space is gone, and about half the startups that started are gone. So the ones that have really survived, and that I know this is not a great compliment for the regional airline industry, but a vast majority of them have survived because they have a market niche where there is no reasonable alternative to what they are doing. So either they're serving very remote parts of a country, and that's their core business, or they are just flying on routes where there is not all that much competition. The ones that have survived, in most cases, are the ones that also had a sound commercial strategy on top of that.
So when we talk about unbundling, is that really just unbundling of all the same services that have been there before, that were just added as SSRs before?
Well, if you talk about unbundling in the true sense of the word, it is unbundling things that were a part of the product before. Now you remove them, and then you make them something that is optional. I think when you talk about selling new products, selling pillows, selling extra meals, selling gourmet meals, where if you order 48 hours in advance, you can get a special meal that you could otherwise not get. That actually tastes like something and not like airline food. Any types of things like that. I think that's more merchandising or whatever you want to call it than unbundling.
Good point.
But I mean, generally speaking, the absolute best time to sell that stuff is the closer you get to the trip.
Yeah.
So the more you can sell people during web check-in, or maybe in a pre-trip email, a pre-trip message you send to them ahead of time, the better. I mean, that's one of the points in time where people worry, because I know people that do that, but most people that I can think of that fly a lot here in Southeast Asia, where this is fairly normal that you can select your meal and all of that stuff ahead of the flight, most people will not know 4 weeks in advance if they feel like eating chicken curry on that day or not. So the closer to departure, the better you are at selling things like that. The same applies to anything else that you're selling. So rental cars, hotel rooms, and so on. Hotel rooms are typically planned a bit earlier, rental cars a bit later, or at least that's been my experience. What you can easily sell at the time of booking is travel insurance, but again, it's not really unbundling, it's just an additional product that you're selling.
Okay, but so I think that's a good point. So let's just summarize a couple of the primary drivers. Should be, is this really going to help you sell more tickets, or is it really going to help you increase your revenues?
Yeah, or significantly decrease the costs. But that's, I mean, with that, it really decreasing the cost really only works through unbundling. And I mean, I think in the European regional carrier space, Flybe has taken it the furthest. I mean, they really went all the way to what most low-cost carriers would do now, and you essentially can choose whether you want to have flight only, if you want to have bags and seat assignments included, and the ability to change for free, and then you pay extra. But they bundle it together as a product, or you can have the business class like-ish product with free food and lounge access at the airports where they have it, and priority boarding and all of that stuff. So they went all the way. So the question is, out of this entire and they also include insurance and car rental and hotel booking and everything in the booking process. So they're really, I guess, at the max you can be as a regional carrier, but they are much larger than all. I don't know if that's true, but I guess it's not too far off. They're probably larger than all other regional carriers in Europe together.
Yeah.
That haven't been bought by Etihad.
What's your opinion about the split between the sales channels? So if we start by separating it into online sales and GDS on-site sales, even though GDS, of course, to a larger and larger extent also means online travel agency. So if we say direct sales channel with a low cost of sale and the indirect sales channel with a high cost of sale, obviously by country and by region the profiles are different. Do you think the profiles now have more or less stabilized, over the last 10 years when direct sales have come in, or do you think there's still adjustments of significant level?
I think in most countries they've really stabilized, and in Europe what you will see is that I think the GDS bookings in pretty much every market are still higher average fares than direct sales. So I know this is the GDS's argument, and every airline will disagree with it, but the fact is that because a lot of big business travel buyers are going to the GDS, obviously there is some value to having the GDS distribution channel. And everyone that has tried to completely abandon it in the regional carrier space, I have been guilty of that once as well and tried it as well, actually typically didn't get to what they wanted because the cost reduction was somehow eaten up by revenue being lost.
Anything else you think that would be interesting for us to talk about, Thomas? Besides a supplier comparison. So,
well, I mean, I can tell you the same thing I've always told you on supplier comparison, which is that unless you have a really, 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 really good reason to switch suppliers, don't do it because it doesn't help you anything. A small provider.
So Thomas, you have worked with some of our close competitors for a number of years, and you have watched them and us. How do you think an airline then should engage with World Ticket? So what can an airline do then? So if they acknowledge that it's best for them to be with a mid-sized provider, how do they then get the best out of the provider?
Well, I think the key thing is to internally be very clear on what you actually want and what you need. I have seen many airlines that are running around with priority lists that were put together based on everyone in the company needs to have a fair share of what goes into that list, and we just prioritize it some way or the other, and then we pay our system provider money to develop this, that, and whatever, and once it's delivered, it's not actually used, but it made someone in the department happy. I think the key is that you as a small to medium-sized regional carrier need to be very focused on what exactly it is that you need, and that really will make a difference. So what you don't have right now that you really need, and that will really make a difference. Just concentrate on these things. Concentrate on the things that really hurt you operationally, that really will bring you a lot of cost reduction, that will really increase your revenues, and stop worrying about little things or annoyances, because wherever you would go otherwise, you're going to replace these little annoyances with other things. And I've seen carriers that moved from one system provider to the next, to the next, to the next, to Amadeus, and they're still unhappy.
Okay, Thomas, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for your insights and your suggestions to the airlines. We appreciate it. We hope to see you next year at the World Ticket Customer Conference 2014. I think we need to make that agreement. You put it in the calendar and you don't remove it from the calendar.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.